Okay, now we'll discuss about types of tables in Snowflake which are available and what is the usage of each type. Like we do have majorly three types are there. So why we do require three types and what is the difference between each type? We'll just see and how to create also we'll see practical. So first of all, I'll start with theory. uh, Higher level, we have two different types of tables: permanent tables, temporary tables. Again, temporary tables has been divided as temporary and transient tables. So these are the three types of tables: permanent, temporary, and transient tables. So if we start with temporary tables, so in the name itself, like we are able to see, it's a temporary word. That means like it will be available if whenever we create this table will be available only for certain period of time, that is until you log out to your session. So once we log in into Snowflake, that is logging into the session. Once you are logging out from the session, that means signing out from the Snowflake, then at up that time only, in between if you create temporary table, only up to that time it will be available. After few minutes again if you re-log in also, the temporary table will not be available. So this is the first criteria of a temporary table lifespan, or at least 24 hours. So because one complete session, if you are not logging out and keeping in a same continuous running mode, then it will be available only 24 hours, normal Snowflake session. Then again we have to use re-log in the Snowflake session. So the temporary table lifespan is 24 hours or until your session log out. So up to this time only the temporary table, whenever we create, it will be available. So if that is the case, then what is the importance? Yeah, sometimes like we need to store some non-temporary, non-permanent data. That means like just for any testing purpose or any historical data, we need to do some modifications. Any data we need to do some manipulations. Then at that time we will just push that data into the Snowflake table and Snowflake temporary table for a temporary use, and we'll work on that data and if we want to drop, like we can drop manually, or let's say we just left the table like that only. Anyway, its lifespan is 24 hours. So after 24 hours the temporary tables gets dropped automatically. So dropping means both the definition and the table data both will get removed from the Snowflake account. And this is the first point, the lifespan of the temporary table. Next, let's say we both are working in a same organization and same development team. I have created a temporary table, and whatever I have created, it will be visible to me only. The temporary table will not visible to the other peers. Even the same project, same role, same Snowflake account, they'll not be able to see. So this is particularly user specific. Only the user who has created that user can see the temporary table. Others will not have access on this particular table. Next, not bounded to the same uniqueness requirements. So on a table, some unique constraints, uniqueness can be defined. That particular constraints or uniqueness cannot be available on the temporary table. So if we just want to apply some constraints, unique constraint, primary constraint, not null constraint, that we cannot define on a temporary table. And same name can be used to create both temporary and non-temporary tables. So here, like if we have permanent table already with some name, with the same name we can create a temporary table. Ideally with the same name we should not create another table, but here it is possible. In Snowflake, a permanent table is already available and I want to create a temporary table with the same name. Yes, we can create. And who will accept the DML or DQL? Who will accept these changes? So that also we will see by creating a same name of temporary permanent table. And at that time, temporary table will have the precedence over the permanent tables. Like whenever we create with the same name, like whatever the operations you are doing, it is applicable to the temporary table, not to the permanent table. So that here we will see. And the major thing here we need to remember is, on temporary tables, time travel period will not be available. So whatever the value, so it's a lifespan itself 24 hours, and we cannot expect the time travel. So what does time travel means? So time travel, I'm just briefing here. I didn't explain the topic here. We have a separate class for that. So time travel in the sense, if the table is available for so many days, and currently we are in November 28th, I want to see the data of November 20 or November 10th or October 10th. I can see the data by using just a query, but that particular concept will not be available on the temporary tables because its lifespan itself 1 day, 24 hours. So how can we travel back on to that particular backdated date? So that is not possible. So time travel default it will be 1 day. That means only temporary table is available. Next, after the time travel period, normally on permanent tables, after the time travel period, the fail safe will start. Once the time travel is completed, from the next second onwards, the fail safe period will be available. That also we'll discuss in detail in the time travel class. So just understand now, fail safe is the after completion of the time travel, it will enter into the fail safe mode. So here fail-safe period is for the Snowflake company. If they want to restore any data or need to do any changes, then they will do and maintain the data for 7 days. So fail-safe period days is like 7 days, fixed one. And here, if the time travel itself not available, the fail-safe period will not be available. So here it is 0 days. So that means for a temporary table, there won't be time travel and there will not be fail. This point we have to remember. So these type of tables majorly we will use for any testing purpose or any data which needs to be stored for temporarily, and the data which doesn't require time travel and fail safe period. So this is about temporary tables. So any doubts here? Okay. So now we'll see transient and permanent, all the differences at once, and we'll start practicing after discussion of the theory. So here the transient tables, it's quite similar to temporary tables and quite similar to permanent tables. So first of all, we'll see transient tables. This tables is not kind of temporary, like after 24 hours or after session logout, automatically dropping will be there. So that is not the case here. The transient table will be available until we drop explicitly. Let's say if I write a command drop table name, then only the table will get dropped. Until that, it will not get dropped in here in the transient tables. And visible to the other users. So whoever having the same role, same user concept, whoever having like the same permissions of mine on the table, then they can be able to see the transient table. So without any issue, like we can see the table structure and table data and whatever the constraints are there, uniqueness are there, everything we can see on the transient tables also. So it's a similar to permanent tables, a kind of permanent tables. But here in these particular transient tables, there won't be time travel and there won't be fail-safe period. So on the transient tables also, their time travel and fail-safe period will not be available. So when we will use this particular transient tables? So whenever you require the data beyond the session, like beyond the session, if you need that data only for that session, we'll go for the temporary tables. Beyond the session, we need the data, and on that data, if I don't require, I mean, if I don't have time travel and fail-safe period also, fine. Then at that time, we'll go for the transient tables. So majorly, like transient tables are for backing up the data where we don't require time travel and fail-safe period. At that time, we'll use this transient tables. So do remember, transient tables are similar to permanent tables. It will not drop until we drop it, and it is visible to all the users who are having appropriate privileges, and time travel will not be available, fail-safe will not be available. So what is the usage of transient tables? Whenever we require the data beyond the session, and if that data doesn't require time travel and fail-safe period, then we will go for the transient tables. So any doubts here, transient tables? Okay, now we'll see the permanent tables. So temporary, transient, whatever the things not available there, here it will be available. So this table also acts as like until we explicitly drop, it will not remove from the Snowflake account, the permanent table, and visible to the other users who are having appropriate privileges. And on these tables, we can define the time travel period. So default it will be 1 day, and you can increase up to 90 days. Like you can mention it's a 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, 70 days, 10 days, whatever you want, you can define on this table, permanent table. And fail safe is 7 days. Once the time travel period is completed, let's say you define on the table time travel period as 10 days. Then from the 10th day completion, from the next second onwards, it will enter into the fail safe period, and the fail safe period will exist for 7 days, and after that the time travel and fail-safe period on that particular data will be collapsed. There won't be available. You cannot recover the data, or you cannot retrieve the data after the completion of the time travel period. So when we will use the this type of tables, so whenever we require the data like beyond the session, and also on this table data, I need time travel period and fail safe period. I want to recover the data. I after by sitting in 28th November, I want to see the data of 10th November. So at that time, wherever you do require this concept, then we will go with the permanent tables. So majorly in our real-time projects, we will go with the permanent tables for all the transactions data, all the dimensions data. Whenever we have a delta loads or full loads, at the time we'll go for the permanent tables. And transient tables, whenever, like when we are doing a backup, and for that data, backup means a 1 day data you are doing a backup, or 2 days, 10 days of data you are backing up. So for that you don't require time travel and fail safe period. Temporary, it's just a like one day data you want to maintain for a 1 day or for any testing purpose, then we'll go at the temporary tables. So time by applying time travel and fail safe period, will there be any additional charges? Yes, obviously there will be additional charges on the permanent tables. If you are defining time travel, default it will be 1 day, it will be a normal charge. If you are defining more than 1 day, so 10 days, 20 days, up to 90 days you can define. So if you are defining that, then we have to pay the additional charges on the permanent table data. So because 90 days, it has to preserve the data, because anytime user can access the previous data. So that's the reason, like we need to preserve this data. That means preserve the micro partitions and give to the user. After 90 days, the 7 days the time travel period there, and after that, like the micro partitions will be removed from that. Whenever we don't require this additional cost, we will go with the transient tables. So this is the concept of permanent, transient, temporary tables. So any doubts here? No? Yes? Okay. Now we'll start with practicing. Okay. So first of all, we'll start with the creation of the database. Like here, to create a table in Snowflake according to the hierarchy wise, like in Snowflake, we have to create a database first. Under the database, we will have schemas. Under the schemas, we need to create the tables. So for that reason, from today onwards, we will start with our project. Database and schema, then again tables we will create. So here, first of all, I am creating a database for the development environment. So that's the reason I have suffixed with underscore dev. So wherever I am giving like for a database name underscore dev, it is the development database. If it is UAT database with the same name underscore UAT, I will suffix. If it is production, then underscore prod, I will maintain the database names as environment names. So here I am giving underscore dev. Still we are working in the development environment. So that's the reason underscore dev I have given. And first we all the data from the transactional systems or from any kind of place, the data has to be put in the one particular layer that is called as like a raw layer or pre-stage layer. It depends, like from organization to organization, the naming conventions will be different, but whatever I am going to any data source, I am keeping in the first layer of the tables, that is in the pre-stage layer. So DB in the sense it's a database, so that's the reason I am mentioning it as a pre-stage underscore DB underscore dev. So this particular database is for creation of the all the development objects of the pre-stage layer. So now how to create a database? It's very simple, like create. So this is a DDL command because still we are creating the object, create, and what type of object you are going to create, that type of object. So here it is, we are creating a database. So we mentioned it as a database and the name of the database. So let's create this particular database. So create database name. I have just highlighted the query, and once the query is ready, we need to execute the query to get it created. So now I'm just clicking on the run button which we have here. So just clicking on the run. So now we can see database pre-stage dev successfully created. So how can we see this, like whether the database is created or not? So in two ways we can see. One is through UI and the other one is through query also we can see. So UI, you can see in the left pane, we have this database's name, like under the databases tab, you have the database, and here the three dots are there. So if you just click on the three dots, click on the refresh. So if you, for refreshing the things, it will take time. So here you can see the database is created, pre-stage DB dev, and if you just see this pop-up, it will be available like how it has been created. Source is local. And so do we have any other types to create a database? Yes, we have one more type, which is through data sharing, database replication also. A database will be created. So that will have the separate name, different name will be there. So if it is local, then a database is created manually. Next, replication. As I mentioned, database replication is a separate concept. So whether this database is ready for replicating for the other regions or other platforms. So initially, defaultly, it will not be enabled. We have to enable if it is required. So that we will see at the concept of database replication. Now we will not touch this replication. We have a separate class for that. And who is the owner? With which role the particular database has been created. So currently I have logged in with account admin. So you can see I have logged in, or user is Lahari, but I have logged in for this sheet as a account admin. The role is account admin. So the same role, it will be displayed and created. So when we have created this particular database, so that 2 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, whenever we create that information, it will be available. Comment. So when you're creating a database, like have you given any comment here? So that will be available here. If not, it will be blank. So this is about database information. So if you expand the database, the schemas will be available. So you can see the schemas are available. So before going into the schemas, we will see how through query, how can we see the databases. Through UI, we have seen like how to, if it is not available, we'll just do a refresh. Automatically, the objects will be available here. So let's say if I want to see through the query, so only command show. So if you want to get the list of the databases, show and the plural form of the type of the object. So if you want to get the list of databases, then you can see like a databases. So if I'm selecting the query and clicking on the run button. So you can see here the list of the databases we are seeing here, like whatever, when it is created. So what is the date of creation of this particular database? Let's say D_SQL has been created on this particular November 9th, something around 5:31 p.m. So again, pre-stage DB dev, it is 27th November 6:24. So here the date which this particular object has been created, that date will be displayed here. Is default. So we have an option defaulting the database. Whenever you log in into the session, so it will be a defaulted with one particular database, whatever you have created. So that also we can define. So currently none of the databases we have given as a default. So all is default flag became N. So we will see how to default the database or how to default the schema, how to default the role, everything we'll see. But currently none of the database is in a default page. So that's the reason, like we can see here, everything the flag is N and is current. So is current in the sense, in this particular database or in this particular session, whenever if you just create a database or if you have set the context, then is current flag will become N, Y. Otherwise it will be N. So let's say here D_SQL, we haven't used the D_SQL database in this particular session, or I haven't set the context also. So that's the reason the flag is N. Pre-stage DB dev, yeah, just now we have created. In this session itself, it is available. So that's the reason is current flag became Y. And for the other databases also, I haven't created now and I haven't set the context. So that's the reason the flag is N. So this is the is current flag. Next, origin. So origin in the sense, as I mentioned, a database can be created in two methods. One is local, like when whatever we have done, we have just created a database, right? That database, normally if we are creating, the origin will not be available. So it will be a blank because we have created locally. We are not importing from anywhere. So that's the reason origin will become blank. Let's say if it is coming from any of the data share concept or database replication concept, then the origin will be available. So let's say this particular Snowflake sample data is coming from the sf sales share dot sfc samples dot underscore az central india dot sample data. So from this database schema table, it is coming. So in this way, we can understand these particular objects are importing from other Snowflake accounts or Snowflake vendors. We are importing. If we are doing that, then this particular information, origin information will be available. So if it is not created locally, the origin information will not be available. Next, who is the owner? Like with which role we have created. So let's say I can switch back to the sysadmin, security admin, public, anything. I can create the database. So from there, like the owner name will be available. So here, everything in Snowflake, it is not user based, it is role based. Whoever it logins, like Lahari or some other XYZ person logs in, but the role is important. Like the role here is account admin. So the login user is the login role here in this particular session is account admin. So whenever we create any object, that particular role, whichever we have set as a context, that information will be available under the owner. Next, comment. So when we are creating a Snowflake database, we can comment it, like why we are creating this. So it's an optional thing, it's not mandatory. So that's the reason, like you can see wherever we haven't provided comment, so it's a blank. When we see like a comment, someone has provided already comment saying like provided by Snowflake during account provisioning. So this information, just add on information to understand, okay, what type of database it is, why we are using. So just for understanding purpose, this comment is optional, we don't require it. So options, it's a just empty column, like we don't have any information about this. And do remember, in Snowflake, some extra columns already they have placed in the data set. So these informations, like in future they will provide. So currently we don't have any information, not only for show databases, for other kind of objects also. When we are checking, some additional columns will be there, but we don't have information in Snowflake itself about these columns. So in future we will get the information, like if they implement anything, we will get the information here. Next, retention time. So retention time is for time travel. So whenever we are creating a database, or let's say after creation of the database, if you want to apply the time travel, we can apply the time travel. So if we are not applying the time travel, how default will be 1 day. So let's say when I have created a database, what I have done, just I have mentioned create database name. I haven't mentioned like this is the time travel period, like 70 days or 90 days, 35 days. I didn't mention anything. So that means if we are not mentioning anything, so it will be the time travel period of 1 day only. So it will not give, I mean, default will be 1 day. If you want to increase, we have to write some additional property as data retention time in days equals to 35 or 40, 70. So that information, it will be available under the retention time column. So for data shared objects, database sharing or database replication, the time travel period will not be available. Only on the local databases, the time travel will be available. So now I am not showing how to create the time traveled object, because we have a separate class. At that time we will create the time travel on a database schema table, and we'll see how to retrieve the data also. So currently I'm not providing, its default is 1 day. So again, kind is standard, like if it is a locally created, like standard. And through application, if we are getting database replication, if we are getting, then we can see through application. Data sharing, so we have other concept, data sharing, that is importing the database through the data sharing concept. So this is the kind information, and budget is the additional column, like similar to options here we do have in Snowflake. So this is about the database. Like if we just see the show databases, like we will get all these columns anywhere in Snowflake. So these are the informations about each column. So any doubts here? Let's say we have listed all the databases. We have seen how to list all the databases. Now let's say you want to see what are available under this particular database. So one thing is, like through UI, you can just expand the database. You will get the list of the schemas which are available here. Through query, if you want to do the same thing, like describe, DESC or DSCRIBE, the type of the object, which object you are going to describe, that type of the object, it is database, and your database name. So here the database name is prestate db dev. So now if I run this command, describe database name, so you will see the list of the databases which are available here. So here you have schemas. Under a database, schemas will be available. So the schemas are information schema and public schema. When it got created, what is the kind? So it may be a table or it may be a view. So here it will display this particular thing is schema, kind of the object. So in this way, you can just list the schemas or which are available in the database. So this is about describe database view. Now, so we just created a database, but we haven't created schemas under that database, right? We just created create database name, but why two schemas came automatically? Defaultly, why two schemas are available? Yes, whenever you create a database, defaultly you will get two schemas. One is information schema and the other one is the public schema. So information schema is the one where you have information like metadata about the objects. Let's say you have created views, when these views are created, who has created, what is the query. So if you just want such type of information, metadata about the objects, then we will go for the information schema and see the data here. So this is like purely maintained by Snowflake itself, not by us. Like we cannot manipulate the data or we cannot alter the table. Nothing we can do. We can just use the data. That means these objects can be used only in the DQL commands. If you want to use this data, we can do. Apart from that, we cannot do anything in the information scheme. So that's the reason Snowflake itself given one particular schema where you want to create a temporary table or permanent table, transient table for any kind of case. So you can create under this schema. This is the public, like where it's not about the word public means whoever can create. It's not that kind. Like public means under these schemas, if you want to create your own objects, tables, views, streams, then you can create under this schema. Let's say if you don't want to use this schema, we can just leave as it is or we can drop the schema also. There is no issue. So now I don't want to use this schema. We will just create our own schemas for organizing the data. So for that reason, what I'm doing, I'm creating a schema called create schema name. So here SE represents schema underscore table. So we are talking about tables. So that's the reason I have just used it as a SC underscore tables. So the creation statement is very simple. Like first we have to use the create keyword and type of object and the name of the object. So now I am running this query by selecting the query and clicking on the run button. So we can see schema SC table successfully created. So now if we want to see the schemas, whether it is created or not. So through query we can see and through UI also we can see. So let's start with query. So show and the type plural form of the object. So here show schemas. So now we'll just start creating show schemas and we can see the information about the schemas. So again, when this schema has been created. So what is the date of the schema creation and what is the name of the schema? So here information schema, public, SC tables. So these are the schema names. Is default. So again, as I mentioned, we can default the database name schema name. Whenever we logs into it, automatically this schema should be available. So we can default it. So here currently we haven't done it. So the flag is yes. Is current. So here, if we just create the schema in this sheet or if we set the context, then automatically the is current flag will become Y and for the rest of the things, the flag will become N. So you can see information schema is N. For information schema, the is current flag is N and for public schema, is current flag is N. For SC tables, is current flag is Y because I have just created this particular schema here and the context also available for this schema alone. So that's the reason is current flag become Y. Again, the schema should have a parent, right? So here the parent is like in which database you have created that information, it will be available. So this schema is available in Prestige DB Dev database. So that's the reason the information is available. Again, owner who has created this particular schema. So if you just see for the information schema, you don't have any owner because this is maintained by Snowflake. So that's the reason we will not have that information. And for public and SC tables, the owner will be account admin because public anyway it has been given by Snowflake, but it will be organized or maintained by account admin. So that's the reason the owner is account admin. SC tables, we have created it with the role account admin. So the owner will become account admin. Next, comment. So again, this is optional. While creating a schema, you can give a comment saying for so and so purpose we are creating, and this type of data will be available. So we can mention that comment. So here you can see views describing the comments of schema in this database. So whenever the like about information schema, just provided a comment here. Or if you are not providing, then we can just make it as a it will be available as a blank. And again, the options column is additional placeholder here, like for future purpose. Again, here also retention time will be available. On schema also, we can define the retention time. So here defaultly, if we are not providing anything, like we can see it as a 1 day. If you are giving some information, then like 10 days or 20 days, then that value will be available. So currently while creating schema, we haven't given any time travel period. So that's the reason there is no information here. And owner type, owner role type, with which the role or user based it is created. So that information here it will be available. Budget, it's just an additional placeholder to have the values. So this is about show schemas, like the list of the columns, what is the usage of each column. Now through UI, if you want to see, so here still we are not able to see. Okay, so after some time, automatically without refresh itself, you can see the SC tables object schema here. So under this, we don't have anything currently because we haven't created any object under the schema. So let's say if you want to describe the schema, the same thing, describe schema, schema name, whatever you want, you can describe. Under this schema, whatever the objects are available, here it will be displayed. So currently we don't have any objects. So that's the reason like we are not able to see any information. Let's say we have logged in with the, we have set the context as pre-stage DB dev, but you want to see the schemas information of the other database. So again, we have changed the context here, or without changing the context, you can directly see through query. Show schemas in whatever the database. Let's say you want to see under the D underscore SQL database. In this database, you want to see, then just you can give it as a in command and the database name. So you will get the list of the schemas which are available in this particular database. But you are still in the context of pre-stage DB dev, but you can see the schemas which are available for this particular D underscore SQL database. So okay. The database schema, if you don't have any doubts, like I'll just start with the creation of the tables. Okay. Now I will.
Madam, on this Snowflake account creation, um,
Mm.
maybe you can explain so then we can create trial version.
Okay. Yeah, I will show in tomorrow's class the Snowflake trial version, how to take that. It's very simple, like it's a straightforward, no glitches here. So first we are creating a table. So when we have created a database and schema, same create keyword we have used. So here also the same thing, create. Here we are creating a temporary table. So that's the reason we need to write a keyword called temporary. And here we are creating the type of the object is table. So we have mentioned it as a table. So create temporary table, and a table should be available under a schema. So I am going to create my table orders temp. Here table TBL refers to table. Orders, like I am storing the orders information. So here it is a temporary table I am going to create. So I have just suffixed with the word underscore temp. Just the naming conventions, according to me, it will differ from the organization to organization. Now I'm going to create this particular named object under the schema called SC tables. Again, this schema should be available under a database. So the database name. So be careful every time when you are mentioning apart from the schema and database. Let's say you are talking about the table or a view or a stream or a snowpipe, any object apart from the database schema. If you are creating, it should be called with database name dot schema name dot table name or view name, stream name, whatever it is, you have to call with the database name dot schema name dot object name. So it's a fully qualified name. So if you are not doing that, we have to set the context. So it's a recommended practice whenever you are writing any query or any creation of the object or loading of the data or selecting the data, just remember, use the fully qualified name or qualified name. So qualified name is obviously database name dot schema name dot table. So here I have provided this information, and next we have to define in a table what we do have. Columns will be there and rows will be there. So in rows we will store the data. For the columns, like there will be a column header. So for each column header we have to say, okay, this is my column name, column header name, and in this particular column header I will be pushing the data of number data type or integer data type or character data type. So I have to define my data types here. So whenever I am pushing the data into that particular column, this column is expecting this type of values. So that we have to provide here. So here I have started, I have to define my columns and their data types. So that will be defined and between two brackets, open bracket and closed bracket. So here you can see O underscore order key is my column name. Whatever the column name is available, the column name is O underscore order key. And this column is expecting the input, or the user is pushing the data into this particular column with the data type of numbers. That means only the number values will be available in the order key column. Let's say when we are pushing some character columns into this particular column O underscore order key, it will not push the data. It rejects the data, saying you have defined it as a number and you are trying to push it as a character, so it will throw error for us. So be careful, whatever the data type you are pushing, only that type of values it should be available in the orders, that particular column. So again here customer key O underscore cust key. So here the customer key, again it is also number data type. So here this first we'll talk about the scale and precision. So here if we just see the number 38 comma 0 I am defining. So if we start here, like what is 38 and what is 0. So this first part will become precision. So before the decimal, let's say I have the value like this. So 24.987, something like this. So before this decimal point, whatever the left side digits, so I can accept 38 values. So that will become the first part. Whatever you are defining, the precision part, this is before the decimal. So how many, like that means you can accommodate 38 digits. So like this, you can provide 38 digits here. That is the maximum limit. Here you are saying only 38 digits will be coming in the before the decimal point or as a precision. Now, whatever the scale value, let's say if you are defining 0, then you will not have any values. So here itself, it will get stopped. Let's say you are defining the scale as 7. Then it can accept again 7 values it can accept after the decimal point as scale. So apart from this, it will not accept. So according to your data, your requirement, you have to define whether you have scale or not. If it is not available, then you can define it as 0. If it is having like 7, 10, 15, 20, whatever the value you have, then you can define it as I mean, set that value. Let's say you don't know what exactly, but you need to understand the data and create the data type. We don't have any choice here. There is no option like Snowflake itself identifies. We don't have that option. So now you have just given normally number without any scale and precision. What is the default value it will be taking? So it will be taking 38,7. Let's say I am reviewing 38,0, and for the O underscore cust key, I am using the number data type instead of scale and precision. We'll see whether it will work or not. Next, order status. So again, order status, like whether it is in transit or delivered or finished, so that information will be available. So only the number data type will not sufficient for us. We have character data type. So again, so here we have the data type called varchar. So it accepts characters, special characters. So special characters in the sense percentile, at the rate, dollar, so hyphen, all these values it will accept, and also it will accept the numbers. Any column with the varchar data type, it will accept the characters A to Z, and the special characters, all the special characters, and the numbers like 1 to 9, any 0 to 9, anything it will accept. So it's a combination of all the three things. So again, for varchar also, we can define a default value, or if you know like how many characters it is been entering, then we can define that value. So here I already knew O underscore order status is having only the one letter character. So I am defining it as a varchar 1. So now the next column is O underscore total price. So here I am defining a number data type with 12, 2. So precision as 2, 12, and 2 as my scale. Next, date, O underscore order date, which is in the date data type. So we will have some dates, right? So it is in YYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. So that is the date data type. So here my order is expecting only the date value. So I'm defining the date data type. Next, the other column is O underscore order priority, which is a varchar column and accepting 15 characters. Next, O underscore clerk, again varchar 15, which is accepting 15 characters here in the varchar data type. And ship priority, again it is having number 38, 0, precision as 38, 0 as my scale. O underscore comment, varchar 79. So 79 characters it will accept in this particular O underscore comment. So once you are good with all the columns, everything, then you can close your bracket and it will complete your query. Again, if you just understand here, after defining one column and the respective data type of that column, I have separated with comma. So what does it mean? So this comma refers the separation between one column to the other column. That means I am okay. This is my column name and this is the data type. I have completed my column name and data type. After that, I need to start a new column name. So to start a new column name, my separator is comma. And again, the second column and the data type. Again, the third column and the data type. So this comma separator is for differentiating one column to the other. So here, any doubts in this creation of the table? So now I am selecting the query and just executing the query. So now we can see the message as table orders 10 successfully created. So where can we see this? Again, we can see through query and also through query we can see, and through UI also we can see. So first we'll see with the query. Show tables. So we need to get the list of the tables. So show command and tables, plural form of the object. So you can see here the tables information. So when it got created, what is the name of the table, in which database this table is available, in which schema it is available, what kind it is. So we can have like temporary tables, transient tables, and permanent tables. Three kinds are there, right? So that's the reason here the client refers like whether it's a temporary or permanent or transient table. Comment while creating the table, we can comment it. If it is available, we can get the information here. If it is not, we will not see the information. So don't worry, like in the next class we will discuss about how to comment the value on the table, and at the column levels we'll see. Cluster by, so this is the concept of clustering concept. So we can sort the data using the cluster concept and get the stabilized data. So that clustering also needs to define on a particular column, so that information it will be available. So currently we haven't done clustering, we just created a table, so that's the reason the cluster by column will be blank. So just we have created the table, we don't have the data in this table, so that's the reason rows information is 0. And if there is no data, the data size also will not be available in the bytes. So it's a 0 bytes. Who is the owner? So account admin is the owner here. Next, what is the retention time? So again, on a table, we can create the time travel period, but on a temporary table, even we cannot create the time travel period. Default, it will be 1 day. If we don't have an option to create, but on a permanent table, if we have any time travel, it will be available. And automatic clustering also, the same concept relates with the cluster by. When we talk about the clustering concept, at that time I'll show what will be available under the cluster by column, whether it is off or on. Change tracking also the same clustering concept. This all search optimization, progress, bytes, everything related to the clustering concept only. There itself we will see this. Next is external. Again, whatever the temporary, transient, permanent, these are the internal tables which we are creating and maintaining in Snowflake. We have one more table, external table. That means we will create with the help of the cloud. I mean, technically it will be visible in Snowflake, but it is maintained by cloud. So here the flag says if the flag of is external is n, that means it is a internal table. If it is y, then it is a external table. Next, enable schema evaluation. So I am also not sure about this. I'll just check and get you back. Owner role type. So which base it has been used, whether it's a role based or owner user based. So that is the thing. Is event. So is it a kind of event table? So again, flag n or y. It's a temporary table, so we will not have the flag as y. It will be n. And budget is the additional placeholder here to have the information. So this is about the list of the about a table, like information, all the columns information, everything it will be available. So this is about show tables. And through UI, if you want to see, let's say I am not refreshing because it's been like 2 to 3 minutes. So without refresh also it will be available. Just collapse your database and again expand. Again expand your schema. So you can see under the tables, you can see the table name as table orders temp. So here we can see the pop-up as like what type of table, number of rows, size, cluster by, who is the owner, when it has been created, that information here it will be available. And if you see the definition, like whatever we have created, that information here it will be available. So this is the show tables command. So any doubts here? Okay. We are, I mean, it's 8:30 now. So we will discuss about the transient and permanent tables, and how to have with the same name, permanent and transient table with a single name. We will see in tomorrow's class. Any doubts, guys, up to now? Okay. If you don't have anything, like we'll see in tomorrow's class.